Assalamualaikum everyone, welcome to Study Zone with Sania. Today we are going to talk about the story of Sultan, who is remembered as one of the strictest, wisest and bravest ruler of his time. He was the king whose single command could crush rebellion, strike fear in the hearts of enemies, and even the powerful Mongols would tremble at his name. Yes, in this video we'll explore the incredible story of Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban. Do you know why the gates of Delhi used to be closed after sunset during his reign? And how Balban managed the empire after the heartbreaking death of his beloved son? Stay tuned till the end because the story of Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban is full of power, politics and sacrifice. And trust me, you will not want to miss a single detail. Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban early life. Ghiyasuddin Balban's real name was Ulugh Khan. He was the son of chief named Kolar from the famous Turkish tribe Albari, which had nearly 10,000 families, according to historian Ziauddin Barni. Balban used to claim that his family descended from the legendary Afar-Siab. Unfortunately, in his childhood, Balban was captured by the Mongol and sold as a slave to Khwaja Jamaluddin Bhari. Khwaja treated him like kindly his own son, but to save his life, he later brought Balban to India and presented him before Sultan Iltutmish. The historian Farishta writes that at that time 100 slaves were brought before the Sultan. Iltutmish brought all of them except Balban. Because he was short in height and not good looking, Balban begged the Sultan to also buy him in the name of God. And finally, the Sultan agreed. In the beginning, Iltutmish gave him small duties like fetching water and later made him a guard. But soon Balban proved that he had greater abilities. With his intelligence, loyalty and skill in handling situations, he impressed the Sultan. As a result, Iltutmish included him among the important nobles Umrah. Slowly Balban's talents came to light and his fortune began to shine. Eventually, Iltutmish married his daughter, known for her beauty and grace, to Balban. After this marriage, Balban's career rose very quickly. During the reign of Sultan Razia, he was appointed Amir al-Shikar, master of the hunt. However, because he supported the Turkish nobles, he could not rise much further at that time. Later, step by step, his rank and responsibilities increased. In the time of Sultan Behram Shah, Balban was given the lands of Rewari and Hansi, where the rule with kindness won the heart of the people. During the reign of Alauddin Masood and Nasiruddin Mahmud, his importance and influence grew even more. In 1246, when Masood became Sultan and positions were distributed again, Balban was appointed Amir Hijab, chief of the royal court. Later, during the rule of Nasiruddin Mahmud, Balban family became a part of the royal family. Since both Balban and the Sultan were son-in-law of Iltutmish, although he had once been a slave, Balban's loyalty, capability and wisdom earned his great success. Even before becoming Sultan, he carried out many successful military campaigns against the Mongols and Rajputs. Strengthening the Delhi Sultanate in 1245, during the time of Alauddin Masood, the Mongols attacked Sindh and besieged Uch. Balban led the army from Delhi, defeated the Mongols and captured the whole region of Sindh. Later, when Masood was removed from the throne, in which Balban also played a role, Nasiruddin Mahmud became Sultan, since Nasiruddin was a pious and spiritual man. He handed over all the responsibility of governance to Balban. Thus, Balban was made Nabul Mulk, chief administration of the state, and was given the title Khan-e-Azam Ulugh Khan. Ghiyasuddin Balban as a Naib Sultanate, deputy of Sultanate. During the reign of Nasiruddin Mahmud, the Mongol attack started again. They had already created destruction in Kabul, Ghazni, Kandahar, Balkha, and Herat, and once they even reached near the river Jhelum before turning back. In such conditions, the Delhi Sultanate was also under serious threat. As Naib Sultanate Prime Minister and Chief Administrator, Balban took strong steps for defense. He combined Punjab, Multan, and Sindh into one province, placed a permanent army there, and handed over its control to his relative, Sher Khan, Khan-e-Mazam. Along with these military measures, Balban also tried to improve relations with the Mongols. As a result, Halaku Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, ordered his officer not to attack Delhi borders. In 1258, Balban sent an ambassador to the Mongols, and the next year, Halagu envoy came to Delhi. When the Mongol trade reduced, Balban focused on internal affairs of the Sultanate. He crushed the rebellious Rajput rulers, the Khokars and the Mewatis, who were taking advantage of political weakness between 1247 and 1252. He defeated the Rajput rulers of Gwalior, Bundelkhand, Chanderi and Bhopal and brought most of the region from Delhi to Kalinjar under control except Ranthambore. In 1248 and 1250, he again defeated the Rajput rulers of Doab. As a result, the rulers of Oudh and Kara accepted the authority of Delhi. But with Balban's growing powers, his enemies increased. In 1253, when he won the Punjab, the Sultan, some rebels tried to kill him but failed. Most of his enemies were non-Turkish Muslim nobles, Indian Muslims, who were jealous of his power and position. The leader among them was Imaduddin Rihan, who was originally a Hindu eunuch. Rihan and his supporters turned Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud against Balban. In 1253, the Sultan removed some of Balban's relatives from their post and finally ordered Balban himself to leave government affairs and go to his Jagir in Hasi. Balban obeyed, but later he was sent even further away to Nagaur, so he would stay away from Delhi. After this, Imaduddin Rihan became the head of the royal court and took most of the people in his own hands. He removed Balban relatives from important posts and replaced them with his own supporters. But soon Rihan became arrogant and unpopular. At this time, Balban supporters created an army in Bathinda. The Sultan thought of fighting them but did not take action. Later, the nobles convinced him to restore Balban. After 2 years, Balban again became Naibul Sultanate, and Rihan was removed and sent as governor of Badon. However, Rihan did not stop his hostility. Balban later sent him to Bharuch, but he again tried to rebel. Finally, in 1256, Balban marched against him and Rihan was killed. After this, Balban defeated two more rebels, Fateh Khan of governor of Oudh and Kishalu Khan, governor of Sindh. Fateh Khan was removed while Kishalu Khan begged for forgiveness, so he was restored. But later, Kishalu Khan joined hands with the Mongols and plundered Multan. Luckily, the Mongols soon retreated. Balban's last major campaign as minister was against the Marathis. They were looters and had become a serious problem for Delhi and surrounded areas. In 1260, Balban fought them for 4 months continuously. At Rakhar, he defeated them, killed nearly 10,000 Marathis, and captured 250 chiefs. Balban theory of kingship as ruler 1266 AD. Balban proved to be a strict and authoritarian ruler. When he came to the throne, the condition of the Sultanate were very poor. Rebellions and war had destroyed peace, and the respect of the government had weakened. The group of 40 Turkish nobles, known as Chalgani, had become very powerful and were even affecting the honor of the royal family. After Iltutmish, weak rulers had further reduced the strength of the Delhi Sultanate to deal with the situation. To deal with this situation, Balban adopted a policy of strictness which at that time was necessary. Balban believed that the greatest weakness of the Delhi Sultanate was the loss of dignity and authority of the royal family. In his view, the only solution was to restore the glory and majesty of kingship. For him, the king had to be seen as high, powerful, and full of respect so that people would both fear and honor him. He said that kingship means respect, fear, and power. The people must have such awe of the ruler that they could not even think of rebellion. To achieve this, he centralized power in his own hand. Neither provincial governors nor princes were allowed to act against him. He crushed his opponent with severity and never allowed them to rise again, just as the German leader Bismarck used strictly policy to maintain order. Balban to rule through fear and harsh punishment. Whoever raised his hair to rebellion, Balban destroyed him. Historian Ziauddin Barni even writes that Balban used dagger and poison against his enemy. For example, he poisoned one of his powerful relatives, the governor of Batinda, but outwardly built a tomb for him. He gave rebels and criminals terrible punishment, being crushed under elephant, public hanging, being cut into pieces with sword, or even being skinned alive. To straighten discipline and dignity, Balban reformed the royal court. He ordered nobles to wear special dress and uniforms. Jokes and laughter were completely banned. He himself never laughed, nor did he allow anyone else. The atmosphere in the court was so serious that many Hindu and Muslim nobles or foreign envoys were faint out of fear. Balban also cut off close contact with common people. He banned drinking and gambling, and after becoming king, gave up this habit himself. He decorated his court with great grandeur, where armed guards stood with drawn swords. He introduced prostration, sajda, and kissing the ground before the king, so that royal authority could be felt strongly. The fame of his court spread far and wide. Even Hindus and Muslims from distant areas come just to see the splendor of his court. When a critic once said that such royal pomp was against Islamic simplicity, Balban replied, "Without royal authority and grandeur, neither peace can be maintained nor the people can live in prosperity." Because of the greatness of his court, even foreign princes sought refuge with him. Nearly 15 princes from Turkestan and Bukhara lived in Delhi under his protection. Wall neighborhoods and markets were established in their names, such as Sanjari, Khorzami, Alawi, and Yamni. Balban proudly said, "In my court, I host 15 kings." Balban also respected scholars, saints, and poets. His court was filled with great personalities like Hazrat Sheikh Fariduddin Shaktarganj, Sheikh Badruddin Ghaznavi, Amir Khusro Delvi, who became very famous, Sheikh Sadruddin, the disciple of Sheikh Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki. He even invited Sheikh Sadi Sherzi, but Sadi could not come due to health reasons. Justice was also very important in Balban's theories of kingship. He knew that without justice, people will never respect the ruler. He made it clear that in matters of justice, no recommendation or favoritism will be accepted. Even his own relatives and high nobles were punished. For example, Malik Baibak, the governor of Badon, beat a servant to death. Balban ordered him to be beaten to death in the same way, and his body was hung at the city gate. The officer of Badon was also executed because he failed to report the crime. Similarly, Hebat Khan, the governor of Oudh, killed a man while drunk. When the victim's wife complained, Balban ordered Hebat Khan to be whipped 500 times and handed him over to the woman, saying, "Now he's your slave, kill him if you want or forgive him." The woman freed him after taking compensation, but Hebat Khan, out of shame, lived alone and died a few days later. In this way, Balban destroyed the power of the nobles and ended the influence of the Chelghani, the 14 nobles, who had become very strong after Iltutmish. One by one, Balban punished. Major achievements of Sultan Ghiyasuddin Balban. During the reign of Sultan Balban, several rebellions broke out. He crushed them one by one with his strong army and established complete peace from Delhi to Punjab. Mewatis. The Mewatis who lived near Delhi had become a constant source of trouble. They attacked nearby villages, looted people, well, and hid in the forest. Women and villagers face harassment when they want to fetch water. Because of them, many settlements around Delhi were destroyed and traders stopped bringing goods from distant areas. Ziauddin Barni writes that the Mewatis had made robbery and looting a daily routine which had the roads from Delhi to Bengal unsafe. Balban decided to end this menace once and for all. After 1 year of continuous effort, he succeeded. The Sultan personally stayed for months in Pali, Kampel, Bhojpur, and Jalali to crush these gangs. As a result, nearly 100,000 Mewatis were killed or captured. Many were executed by being crushed under elephants, cut into pieces, or skinned alive. Balban cleared the forest, built the Gopalgarh fort, and established police outposts, thanas, around Delhi. The surrounding land were given to Afghan landlords so they could settle there and maintain peace. Slowly, each outpost became the center of a Muslim settlement and Delhi was safe from the Mewati threats. It should be remembered that earlier during Nasiruddin Mahmud's reign, efforts were also made against the Mewatis, but they were not fully successful. For example, a reward system was introduced. Whoever caught a Mewati alive was rewarded, and whoever brought a Mewati's head received a big prize. But still, the unrest continued. It was only after Balban's strict action that the Mewatis were completely crushed and never dared to come near Delhi again. The Doab and rebellions of 1397. The Doab and rebellions of 1367 CE. After defeating the Mewatis, Balban turned his attention to rebellious Rajput chiefs and landlords. Their uprising were quickly suppressed, forests were cleared, and peace was restored. In 1367 CE, Balban was informed that local Hindu rulers had revolted, looted Amora and Badon, and the governor failed to control them. Balban personally marched with his army, crushed the rebels, and punished them severely. Men above the age of 8 were killed, and women were taken as slaves. It is said that after this massacre, dead bodies were piled up in every village, spreading a foul smell. Some corpses were hanged at the city gates to spread fear. This harsh action ensured that for the next 30 years, the regions of Badon, Sambhal, Anola, Amroha, and Ganor remained peaceful. Salt Range Rebellion 1386 CE. In 1386 CE, Balban crushed a rebellion of Hindus in the Salt Range. From there, he obtained so many horses that the price of horses in Delhi dropped significantly because of the surplus. Tughril Khan rebellions 1279 CE. Balban had appointed his loyal slave Tughril Beg as the governor of Bengal. However, some conspirators Tughril Khan rebellion 1279 CE. Balban had appointed his loyal slave Tughril Beg as the governor of Bengal. However, some conspirators influenced him, and in 1279 CE, taking advantage of Mongol invention, Tughril declared independence. He even issued coin in his own name and made Lucknow the center of his rebellion. Balban sent several armies against him, but the first attempt failed. Finally, Balban himself led a massive force and attacked Lucknow. Tughril fled to Orissa but was captured and killed by Malik Muqdar, who earned the title Tughril Kush, the killer of Tughril. Balban punished not only Tughril supporters but also their relatives. They were executed and their bodies were displayed publicly as a warning. The Sultan even called his son Bagra Khan to witness the horrific scene and warned him that anyone who dared to rise against the throne would face the same fate. In this way, Balban completely destroyed rebellious elements and established strong central control over the Delhi Sultanate, border force and military reforms under Balban. During Balban region, the Mongol attacked India several times and became a constant and major threat to the Delhi Sultanate. To stop them, Balban took strong defensive measures on the frontiers. Border areas like Dipalpur and Sindh, while old forts such as Samna and Multan were repaired. New forts were built in border areas like Dipalpur and Sindh, where old forts such as Samna and Multan were repaired. To strengthen the frontier region, Balban gave the areas of Samna and Samnam to his son Bagra Khan in Upper Sindh. He appointed his elder son, Prince Muhammad Sultan, who later became famous as Khan Shahid. After his martyrdom, later, when Bagra Khan left for Bengal, his responsibility of Samna and Samnan was given to Prince Sultan, the governor of Multan. Besides the central army of Delhi, Balban also stationed a permanent army under the command of Malik Bakhtiar to defend the border. Because of the danger Mongol invention, Balban avoided foreign expedition. The nobles repeatedly advised him to invade Gujarat, but he refused, saying, "If I leave Delhi, the Mongols will attack and destroy the empire." Therefore, Balban dedicated all his focus to stopping the Mongols and protecting India. In his 25 years of rule, he left Delhi for a long time only once when he went to Bengal, Lucknow. Civil and military reforms, recognition of the army. Balban recognized the army and spent most of the royal treasure on military needs. The most important division of the army, cavalry and artillery were placed under different commanders. The army was increased in size and became a permanent force. He appointed his trusted officer Abdul Malik as in charge of the army, who honestly built a strong and well-trained force. Soldiers received regular salaries and weapons and equipment were properly maintained. Strengthening the frontier, strong forts were built at places like Batinda, Sarhind and Sirsa to guard the empire borders. Spies and secret reports to monitor official and keep tracks of the situation. Balban appointed spies and informers. They gave secret reports directly to the Sultan. Hiding the truth or giving false information was treated as a major crime. Even Crown Prince Bagra Khan activities were closely monitored. Law and order. To end robbery and lawlessness, Balban placed Afghan soldiers at checkposts along roads and highways. Forests were cleared and new roads were built to ensure safe travel. Appointment in government. Balban only gave government jobs to people of noble and respected families. He believed that high position should not be given to ordinary or low status people to prevent corruption and nepotism. He particularly favored Turks and did not give important posts to Indian Muslims. These policies later became harmful for the empire. Architecture and hunting. Balban built magnificent buildings and encouraged nobles to do the same. He also created hunting grounds in winter. In winter night, he often went hunting with thousands of soldiers, returning only at dawn. The purpose was to keep both soldiers and horses strong and disciplined for future wars. Jagir land grant reform. Balban took away Jagir's land grants from old and unfit landlords who were no longer able to fight so they could not rebel. He divided the landlords into three groups: old and weak, young and active, children. Only the young were kept for military service. Others had their lands taken back and were given pensions instead. Later on the advice of his councillor, most of the lands of the old landlords were restored. In this way, Balban not only secured the empire from Mongol invasion but also built a strong army, maintained strict law and order, and reorganized the administration to strengthen the Delhi Sultanate. Khan Shahid and Balban's death. After the victory of Lakhnauti, when Balban returned to Delhi, he celebrated his success with a grand festival. His beloved son Prince Muhammad also came from Multan to join the celebration. Balban loved him more than all his other sons and had already declared him as his heir. During the festival, Balban gave him even more honor and rewards, and then he returned to Multan with great respect as its governor. In Multan, Prince Muhammad fought bravely against the Mongols, who had started attacking India again from 1279. He defeated them many times and drove them back. He was so fearless that people say Mongol mothers used to scare their children by taking his name. In 1286, the Mongols launched a powerful attack plundering Lahore and Dipalpur before reaching Multan. Prince Muhammad faced them with courage, defeated them and forced them to retreat. But when he chased them, he turned out to be dangerous. It is said that he was left behind with only a few soldiers, and while praying near a pond, a Mongol chief suddenly attacked him with his men and killed him. Some historians tell the story differently. According to them, the Mongols used to attack and then pretend to run away. When the enemy followed them, they would suddenly turn back and surround them. The same happened with the prince. He chased them and then they encircled him with his soldiers and killed him. Prince Muhammad fought with unmatched bravery, untitled his last breath. He kept saying, "I will fight as long as I have weapon in my hands and life in my body." The Mongols admired his courage. They even tried to win him over with respect and rewards. But he refused and fought until he became a martyr. If help had reached him on time, he might have given the Mongols a crushing defeat, but fate decided otherwise. His death was a terrible shock for Balban. Khan Shahid was not only brave but also a patron of knowledge. Because of him, many scholars and poets gathered in Multan, including the famous Amir Khusro and Amir Hassan Delvi. Balban had all his hope tied to his son. His other son, Bagra Khan, was still alive but had no interest in ruling. Balban called him from Bengal, but he refused to take responsibility and return. The loss of his beloved son broke Balban's heart. He realized that both his family and empire were nearing their end. Though he appeared strong from the outside, inside he was deeply shattered. A year later, in 1287, Balban also passed away. The people mourned him with great sorrow for 40 days. The empire remained in mourning. Despite his strictness and harsh rule, ordinary people remembered him as a kind father. Thanks for watching Study Zone with Sanya. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like, share and subscribe because more amazing stories from history are on the way. Stay curious, stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next video.